What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Why We Love PlayStation VR. Sitting across from me this week and every week, wholly contributing to the delinquency of a minor Batman, it's Desra.
Seduction of the innocent. And of course, sitting across from me is Brian Paul.
I don't even want to make a joke about that. And every week on Why We Love PlayStation VR, we blow the dust off an old PlayStation VR game. We pull it out of the archives, we play the crap out of it, and then we talk about it. We see if it's been given any love by the developers, see if it's been given any updates, DLC,
Or hate.
Or patches, any hate. That's very seldom the case.
No.
I think it's happened before.
White Moon Dreams? Sorry.
Oh, I think you just tore a piece of my heart out. That being said, Desiree, what game did we decide to play this week?
This week we're talking about... Oh my god. No More Heroes.
Nope, that's not right.
That's not it. No, it's not. No Heroes Allowed. Wow. Yeah, this is actually something I kept doing every time I went to search for it.
Yeah.
I would type in No More Heroes, like, no, it's like No Heroes Allowed.
Yep.
Those are two very different, well...
No Heroes Allowed VR by
Yes.
Japan Studio and Acquire, released on October 17th, 2017, almost a year into the PlayStation VR lifespan, for $29.99. Yeah, almost exactly a year. $30.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, what kind of game is No Heroes Allowed? I had to check it too.
Well, on its face, it's basically a real-time strategy game.
Yeah.
I guess you have your horde of minions, and you're attempting to take over real estate. And if you get the enemy's castle, you win. But unlike a lot of these games, you're the bad guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, you actually not only the bad guy, you are the all-powerful being summoned by the bad guy.
Right.
To help him take over the world.
And if all this sounds like relatively familiar, you must have owned a PlayStation Portable, PSP, at some time in your life, because this is actually the fourth game in a very strange series. The first one was Holy Invasion of Privacy, Bad Man, What Did I Do to Deserve This on PSP, followed up with What Did I Do to Deserve This, My Lord 2, No Heroes Allowed, exclamation point. See, this is why it's so easy to screw up the name of this.
It is.
Because No Heroes Allowed is, like, in my head, the name of the series.
Right.
And I think it kind of is. Oh, that's actually the name of the game we're talking about.
Yeah.
See, it's going to be an issue. I'm just not going to say the name of the game for the rest of the episode. Also on PSP was the second one. And then, of course, on PlayStation Vita, No Heroes Allowed, no puzzles either, exclamation point. That was, I think, 2014. And the whole thing revolves around Badman and Bad Mela.
And not to correct you too much, but Holy Invasion of Privacy, Badman, what was it? What did I do to deserve this? Was the name in the States for about 6 months. Then lawyers got involved.
I had no idea.
Yep, and because of the whole Badman being the name of the person and the Holy whatever being a Batman and Robin thing, the lawyer said, "Yeah, let's not call it that anymore." So the name was changed to just "What did I do to deserve this, Lord?"
Craziness.
Yes.
It did seem a little strange. I remember when it came out, I was like, playing with danger there, guys. So yeah, the whole thing revolves around like Badman and Bad Mela, before we even dive into the gameplay mechanics, these are like the two characters you'll be hanging out with the whole time.
Yes.
As like the evil boss of the entire game, these are, as you said, the two people that conjured you up, and they are like the epitome of fourth wall breakers. Yeah.
It's definitely, I mean, most of the humor in the game is just references to other games and other, things in either JRPG or other history. Like there was a whole crafting mines thing on one of the levels they talked about. Yeah. This is a game you probably played before. It looks like, there's all this stuff in that mountain where you could go in and you could maybe craft some mines, but you probably spent a lot of time doing that.
Yeah, and even in the first couple levels, the tutorial, there's always these windows that pop up in front of Batman, and he goes, "I guess the developers don't like me very much," kind of thing.
Right.
So it's, and I should hate this. I hate humor in video games, especially when it's not good humor. Sirens on our end.
Yes.
I should hate this. I should really hate this. These two should be the most annoying characters on the face of the planet. And the whole time I'm like, I'm all right with it.
Yeah, the only time that they got a little grating was there were a few stock phrases he had when certain things happened. Like, every time a notification, and this was something like, it more struck me as odd. Like, he's got decent commentary for almost everything that happens. The first, say, 4 levels are pretty much just tutorial levels.
Yeah.
Each of them adding a new skill or a new thing. And, he's very good about telling you what this thing is and whatnot. But many times, you'll get a notification popped up on your little controller there, and he'll just say the same phrase of like, "Oh, looks like you have a message there." And then you read it, And then he says something in context about what it said there. It's like, well, why couldn't he have said that in the beginning? Or why couldn't he have just told me instead of a message popping up there? It was odd. And being one of the only things that's constantly repeated, it kind of struck me. It really struck me. And he does have another phrase. If you ever go back to another level, there's another phrase he says every single time, which is kind of annoying. But,
and you will be going back to other levels. But
yes,
we'll get to that eventually. And just to set the tone, the entire game takes place in one single room. This is like the final boss room. Like you're the bad guys. You're the worst people in someone else's like generic RPG.
Yes,
and you stand around one table with these two other characters. You can spin it around for a better view, and essentially, I don't know a good way to say this, but I mean this has sort of been like the theme of all of these games. Whereas, hey, there's like this cute, happy cartoon world out there, and and that's the thing you hate, right?
Right.
And so there's like this little RPG guy comes out with like a sword and a shield from like the big castle over here, where you start every generic RPG on the face of the planet, and they start heading your direction because like you're the evil that's taken over the land. And what I like most about this game is that it sort of gives an explanation to like why things like slimes in Dragon Quest games exist.
Yeah.
Right? Because like normally you play a game and you're like you walk out into the the first world, like outside of like the little town, and you get attacked by slimes and you're like, this doesn't even make sense. Right? But in the context of no heroes allowed, it totally makes sense.
Yeah, because you're only given a few units, and the way you upgrade or build the units is actually they feed on each other.
Yeah.
So the first unit you can place are the slime. They call them slime mosses in this, but it's a slime.
They're slimes.
And then the next one you can build is called an omnom, which is a little caterpillar-like thing, and the omnoms eat the slimes. And if they eat enough slimes, they can metamorphosize into an omnon fly, which is actually probably the first creature you have that has any decent attack ability. Similarly, there's spirits, which are these little kind of crystalline flying things. Those become food for Liliths, which are these fairies, which are only like ranged attack sort of unit. And then there's also lizardmen, which actually feed on the omnoms. So what you have is a situation where you create these creatures, and after a time they get hungry, and they either eat. They're these little plants that are kind of live in the world. The slimes and the spirits can feed off of those, and your bigger units have to feed off of those other units. So basically, you have this whole food chain going on that you have to maintain.
You create an ecosystem.
Yeah.
In the game, but the problem is that like the core foundation of this ecosystem are these plants.
Yeah.
And there's only a few of them in each level. I mean, as you go on, there's more and more of them as the levels get bigger and bigger. But the fact is if like your smaller creatures are dying out because there's no plants, then the bigger creatures don't have anything to feed off of.
Right.
And it becomes like this bad chain reaction where suddenly like you're losing troops and you can't do anything about it.
Yep.
I think I kind of want to put a pin in this because this sort of lends to the game's biggest problem.
Okay.
Is that like it doesn't really force you to learn this mechanic at all until like you're 8 levels in, and then suddenly you're dying and you're like, I don't know why I'm dying, and you're because you can basically beat the first 8 levels without even worrying about the whole social structure of the food chain. You start putting stuff down as fast as you can, and then you start attacking the hero, the enemy, whatever, and you can do that pretty quickly. And then you get to level 8 or something around there, and you're like, why can't I beat this? It suddenly got really, really difficult, and it's because you haven't been paying attention to this critical part of the game because the game didn't force you to.
And what's also once you realize that you need to pay attention to that, you also realize the tools they give you to pay attention to that are really, really bad. Like there is no way to just keep track of there's no way to know how many units you have of what kind.
This is huge.
Like you have to look around and count, I guess. But the problem is, I mean, they spawn so much that you can have 30 or 40 of the slimes running around, and there's no real good indicator of, hey, my characters are getting weak. It's just, they're fine. All of a sudden, it's got a little kind of like meat, generic video game meat thing over its head saying it's hungry, and then it's dead.
Yeah, it's tethered all over again.
Yeah.
Right? These guys are just walking up to the ledge and jumping off.
Yeah.
Luckily, these guys aren't suicidal. They're just
Oh,
bad.
I forgot about that. Oh.
It's so
All
sad.
right, I'm
right?
definitely not going to have Amanda play that then.
Oh, no. Too sad for her?
Well, too sad for anyone.
It's really too sad.
But the other thing that, so those are the units you can pretty much spawn on your own. A dragon egg. You also hatch a dragon egg once you get enough charisma points. You get charisma points by killing the good guys. You can eventually start mutating. Basically, your only way to interact with the world is you've got like a vacuum thing in your controller, and you can suck up 5 units at a time and spit them out somewhere else. If you suck up units that are fairly larger in size, like the lizard men or the Liliths, or eventually some of the other creatures you can spawn, you can mutate them into stronger versions. There's the Wookieemon, which is this big kind of lump in one-eyed thing that can put heroes to sleep. And there's kind of like a badass version of the Liliths. That is really hard for me to say. Of the Liliths. Sorry, hey, I had speech therapy for 6 years. I'm very excited I can speak this well.
I did too. And if people make fun of me how I speak, I'm like, well, you should have heard me when I was 5.
Seriously.
But mate, should we talk about the controller?
Yeah.
Because you're talking about how you can like kind of take the DualShock 4 and you can vacuum things up and you can spit them back out, or you can vacuum them up and is it crossbreeding or is it mutating?
I think they call it mutating.
Mutating.
Yeah.
But there are no move controller options. It seems like such a simple thing for a game like this to be like, hey, you're pointing, you're clicking. It's exactly what move controllers were designed to do. And instead they go, no, you're using the DualShock 4. And I don't have any complaints about the way it controls, but it just feels like a missed opportunity.
Yeah, we've seen so many games where you have this space you're involving in, you can move it around with your hands, you can pick up units, put them down. I mean, this isn't like brand spanking new technology. People have figured this out.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. It is really weird that all you have is the DualShock. I mean, honestly, with the amount of dexterity it takes or whatever, you could do this with one move controller.
Sure.
I mean, you need a button to suck things up, and you need to be able to move the table around.
The reason I don't have any complaints about it is because certain things just make sense with the DualShock 4. Like you're selecting what thing you want to place on the battlefield, and you're just using the D-pad, like selecting left and right.
Yeah.
If you're using the move control, you'd have to probably use the face buttons, which are always a little bit awkward. They're kind of placed away from the move button. And I don't know. The biggest downfall I see of this is that. Just like a lot of early PlayStation VR games, the controller does this weird kind of like movement in place thing. Like even if you're holding it completely still, like it just kind of sort of moves a little bit, and then the tracking goes off. So every so often you got to do the shake to kind of realign it. It's fine. It's not a huge complaint, but it is there. Before we put a pin in the controller conversation, you were talking about charisma points. Man, another siren. They are active today.
Yeah.
So the charisma points allow you to go into God mode.
Yes.
And so what you're doing basically...
Which is God of Destruction mode, which is a nice recursive acronym. So points for that.
Recursive acronym. That's what we keep you around for.
Like Linux.
Yeah, there you go.
Linux is not Unix.
So what you're doing with that before God mode, before you use your charisma points to activate God mode, is you're basically like just kind of building up your troops and building this, this ecosystem of all these different monsters. And you're sort of like defending your area and slowly expanding your sphere of influence.
Right. Once you take one of the enemy's little bases, which are usually these cute little cottages, once you take one of those, it becomes one of your bases.
Right. And then suddenly, boom, everything gets a little bit more purple instead of green. But then you hit, I think it was square to enter God mode.
Yes.
And then really it's your only opportunity to like rally your troops and go do that.
Yeah.
And so you hit the square, and then you either point to a tower or a castle or something that you want to take over, and you do it, and then they all kind of like head in that general direction.
Well, and that's where I want to actually make a point. It isn't a tower or a castle or whatever. It is only a tower or a castle.
Oh, those are the only two things.
You can't point them to some generic point on the battlefield. You can't point them to, there's this group of heroes coming at me. I want to attack them before they get to my base. You can't direct your troops to that. You can only point them to one place or the other.
Yeah.
And on top of that, not all of them will follow your direction.
Everything but the dragon, is that right?
No.
Just some of them won't.
Some of them just don't. I think the Wookieemon and the higher level ones will always, but a lot of the slimes, the spirits, and things like that don't necessarily, which is it's problematic. And you know,
you get into dire situations and like you really require these things to like listen to you, and they don't, and it's like it's a pain in the butt.
I mean, I've come from a background a lot of real-time strategy games. I mean, for the longest time, that was my favorite genre. That and first-person shooters, those were my jam.
Yeah.
And universally, it's, you know, you have to make the decision between research gathering, defense, and offense. Right? Those are basically your three main choices, and you don't really have that choice. Like, you don't get to assign these groups, you know, a task, which I can understand because they, you know. The idea of this is like you're an evil overlord in charge of this group of monsters, and you really don't have fine control over them. Yeah. I get, but at the end of the day, when you win, you don't really feel that great because, like, what did I really do? And when you lose, you don't really feel that bad because it's like, what did I really do?
I don't know. I don't think I totally agree. I do think that this is a real-time strategy game meant for beginners. Right, this is a great entryway to real-time strategy. Like, if you don't, I'm playing Skyworld right now, right? And Skyworld is like daunting. Like, there's so much tutorial in the first level. And it took me an hour to get through the first level, and I get to the second level, and I was like, "Where's the tutorial? Like, I really need some help right now." Right? It's like I'm not prepared for this because it's not my genre of game. I dove into this, and they're like telling me what to do and tell me what to do and tell me what to do, and even though I made it to level 8 without actually knowing what to do, then I learned. I was like, "Oh, well, I didn't learn this essential thing." And every time you hit the pause button, it shows you the food chain. And so I was like, "Oh, this is important. I need to do this." It was cool because I learned all the mechanics and all the fundamentals over the course of the first 8 levels, and then was like, oh, and here's something else I need to learn. So it was like, even though I'm sure they didn't intend for me to learn it this way, this is the way I did it, and I was like, oh, this isn't bad. Like, this is definitely my first real-time strategy game. Because trying to command a lot of troops and like dealing with like the minutia of what every single character is doing, and like, you know, again, Skyworld, like dealing with like taxes and feeding the population and the number of workers you have available and the happiness of you, it's a lot to manage. And so a game like this that you can kind of just be like, this is what I have to do, and that's all there is to it. I'm like, okay, this is not bad. I think a lot of people who love this style of game are going to walk into this and go, man, this is pretty simple.
I think there's an in between. I think you don't have to like micromanage. Like, I don't really care about the individual health of each one. I understand the point of, you know, it's about the army, it's about the horde, and that's fine, and I get that. But being able to have a little bit more fine control over what you're having that horde do, that would be, you know. Because I found myself, it's like, oh, these heroes are coming here. I don't really care about attacking that place, but it's on the way to there. So if I tell them to attack that, they're going to run into these heroes on the way. Which backfires because some of the units, like the spirits and the Liliths, can fly. So they won't take the track. They'll just kind of go straight. And I found myself a couple times, you know, it's like, oh, you took this castle. It's like, oh, I won? Oh, that was actually not even my intention. They just sort of wandered over to the castle on their way.
That happened to me a few times as well. But what also happened to me a few times was that I got to a point where I was like, man, this is difficult. Like, I just try over and over and over and over, and it brought Apex Construct to mind because I was like, oh, you know what you can do? You can, every single time you beat a level, it gives you upgrade points. And upgrade points they give you more or less depending on how well you perform that level. And just like, you know, every great game out there, the top rank is an S rank, and then, you know, A, B, C, D after that. And if you start collecting these upgrade points, I of course, again, just like every game I've ever played, I don't pay attention to tutorials. I don't pay attention to anything. I get to like level 8 without realizing I was even acquiring upgrade points. And so then I finally went back to the garden when I was having trouble. Went back to the garden where like you can basically look at all of the creatures that you've spawned, mutated, whatever. And then there's like, these pillars that you can upgrade, so you can kind of like raise up the ranks of each of those, and you can upgrade them quite a few times. Right. So like you start off and they're not very powerful, but you got all these upgrade points, and you start deciding like, is it more important for me, these guys to be stronger, these guys to be stronger, and it's just going through that and saying, I'm having trouble, and this is my way of it's not a crutch because it's part of the game, but like I feel like, you know, you can get pretty far without upgrading a single character. And then you go, I'm having trouble, I'm going to go upgrade these characters. Or if you don't have enough upgrade points, you just go back and play some old levels. And then you acquire more upgrade points. That's what reminded me of Apex Construct and a lot of classic games. And then I mean, I think it took me 4 hours to beat this game,
Okay.
and then like another 4 hours to upgrade all my characters, and go back and get like S ranks on everything.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. Yeah, and that was the thing too. Though, the upgrade points really aren't that hard to get. You just have to go back and grind. Like, oh, this level was easy for me, so I'm going to go back. I'm going to grind this 4 or 5 times through, and now pretty much I have all my units fully upgraded.
Yeah.
You know. So it's. I don't know. It's the upgrade system just feels sort of like, oh, we have to make this harder so it will last longer. So we're just going to nerf all the units and then introduce this upgrade system.
Okay.
Because there is around level 8, 9, 10, basically where that center island is, right, where the kind of volcano. That's where also the difficulty level goes from. I could do this and win without actually meaning to oh my god, this actually is getting difficult.
Yeah. So in other words, it's a huge difficulty spike.
Yeah.
Unexpectedly. Yeah. I don't know. I know we didn't really talk about the graphics and the sound effects or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, the design it looks very much what it's trying to be, like generic JRPG.
Yeah,
but it's doing that knowingly and very well.
And very well, I think.
Yeah.
You know, you're in this room and it's.
Did you ever lose a level? Did you ever?
A few times, yeah.
Yeah. Did you get the whole animation of the?
There's so many animations.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say. I shouldn't say so many. I've seen a bunch of fail state animations, where, again, you know, you're basically at the boss's lair, so you're in the final end room for any RPG character, and so so if you lose, you see a bunch of different animations, like somebody comes crashing through the door or comes, climbs into the window.
Yep.
What ones did you see?
I saw the one where she crashed into the door and tied him up in the rope and dragged him out.
Yeah, it's very cool. And for a game that's like, I don't want to say it's not immersive, but for a game that you're basically hovering over a table and playing like a tabletop game the whole time, suddenly you're like, oh, I'm also in this world and things are happening around me.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. And I do like the exaggerated cartoon style. I think it's great because the room's kind of dark and there's all these like references to like old No Heroes Allowed games, kind of strewn throughout the room. Bad Mela, she's like standing right next to you.
Yep.
She's adorable.
And she yells at you when you move the table exactly once.
Yeah, pretty much. And so it's got a like nice look and feel to it.
Did you see this when you so you go back to like the pause menu or something, and if you look away from the screen for too long or take the headset off, did you see the little Bad Mela?
Yeah.
I've never seen this in the games. I've seen some warnings like, oh, the camera's over here, look over here. What she does is pop up and walks towards where the camera is. I'm like, that's really clever and interesting way to handle that problem. So good on you there.
Yeah. I think we should rate this. I think we've said everything we need to say. What's our rating system, Des?
It's pretty simple. We have 3 numbers. Number 1 is yes, you have to buy this. It is one of the best for the system. If you have a PSVR, this should absolutely be in your library. 2 is, yeah, sure, why not? If it's on a decent sale or if it's a genre you particularly like, go ahead and pick it up. And the 3 is no. Friends don't let friends buy junk. We need to vote with our wallets and tell developers that we deserve better. So 1, 2, 3. What do you think?
I think I should preface this with something that I've already said during the episode.
Okay.
This is not my genre of game.
Yes.
I love this game.
Really? Okay.
I love this game because it takes you by the hand and it says, Brian, you don't know how to play these kinds of games. And it says, go have fun. Don't worry about failing. Like if you fail, you just get to do it over again. If you fail, then you just get to go play an old level and rack up some upgrade points. And it said, don't worry about anything. We're going to be cute and lovable the whole time. And just go have fun and good luck. And if you don't get it, we're here for you. Yeah. It's fine. And there's plenty of tutorials and there's plenty of, you can just hit the options button to go to the menu and you can just go back to all of these tutorials all over again to re-explain things that you maybe weren't paying attention to at the beginning. Here's the thing though, I think most people are going to play this and blast through it in like 4 hours and they're not going to really care about getting the S rank on everything like I did.
Yeah.
They're not going to care about upgrading all their monsters if they've already beaten the game. Yeah. Right? There's not why are you upgrading your monsters if there's no new levels to like go send them off into battle to. So my issue is despite the fact that I think everyone should play this game and that everyone should have this as part of their library, I think that $30 is a little bit too much.
Yes.
It's currently on sale for PlayStation Plus members as of, it should still be when this episode goes up, for about 12 hours. Hopefully we're training people to watch these the second they go live. Also, click the like button. No one does that. I know it's not a great show. We're getting there. No, it's a great show.
It's a great show. My favorite.
It's actually my favorite too. Yeah. And so basically the thing is this is a really, really strong 2 because I think I want to call it a 1, but it's too expensive, which is exactly what a 2 is. You know, so the second this thing goes on sale, or the second you see it on sale, as it should be right now, it's been on sale for like 4 times, I think, since it came out in the last year, year and a half or whatever. And every single time it's been either super cheap around $12 or just slightly more expensive around $15.
Yeah.
So $15 that's on sale right now is like, in my book, the perfect price for it. And I think you're really going to like it. Just don't expect it to be like super crazy deep as far as like real-time strategy games go.
I think to me, like, what this felt like more than anything else was a casual mobile game.
Huh.
You know, I really, like, every corner I was expecting to say, hey, if you spend 3 diamonds, you'll get this buff instead. And, like, it just had that feel of, like, you know, you're building your troops and you're not doing anything. You're doing things that are strategy like, but not actually strategy.
Okay.
You know, there are tons of freemium games that are like that, where you start out, and because I get bit by it all the time because I love my real-time strategy game. I'm waiting for a great one for my phone, and you know, you think you're playing that, and all of a sudden you're like, oh no, this is just dumb. I'm just building bases and waiting for time to pass, and if I spend money, the time will pass less. You know.
Wait, should you be reviewing Skyworld?
Maybe.
This is like your jam.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I'm going to give you some advice, Skyworld.
So that being said, if you are a huge fan of real-time strategy games, like if you are, you know, if you grew up on StarCraft and Command and Conquer, you're going to be pretty disappointed by this. If, however, you are, like, you know, not the fan of real-time strategy games, or if you just want a casual, you know, I'm going to build it through this in 4 hours, yeah, it's fine. So I think $30 is way too much. Now, this is the exception. I'm not going to say it's a 3 because it's well built. You know, it does what it does very well. It looks good. No one was cutting any corners on this. It looks great, but it's definitely not a 1 for me. I think if you find it half price or lower, sure, pick it up. It's a 2.
I feel like you're giving it a very weak 2 because the fact that you even said the word 3 in your like closing statements.
Yeah, it's definitely not a 3. And for me personally, like, I would say for other hardcore real-time strategy fans, if you come into this looking for that kind of experience, then you're not going to get it. So I think for most people, it's a 2. You know, it's usually we say if it's in the genre you like, pick it up. I'm going to say if this is a genre you like, don't pick it up.
Interesting.
I'm actually going to invert the 2 ranking. Yeah. So if you're a hardcore RTS fan, maybe, you know, you're going to be disappointed. But everyone else, it's fun. It's goofy. It's got a great aesthetic to it. But $30 is way too much.
Yeah, I've got a Des Nugget.
Oh yeah,
totally forgot.
Okay.
Yeah. If at any point you want to see what the world looks like from the character's viewpoint, you just hold R2 and hit triangle. You just point to the location you want to see it from. Boom. And then suddenly you're sitting on the map.
I did not know that.
Scale size? I know they don't have it. They don't say it
anywhere.
Oh my
gosh!
And then you look up and you see like Badman like hovering over the table, and he looks gigantic.
That's awesome.
It is very, very cool.
All right, I might actually have to reinstall
it. It's very cool just to get a sense of scale and to kind of see what the world looks like from that perspective. And on top of that, I want to say I'm like I love the art style so much. It's like this like simple, you know, like late PlayStation 1, early PlayStation 2 era style graphics that I'm like, man, give me like a traditional RPG in VR that looks like this, and like these graphics are fine. Put me down on the map, and I'm like, okay, this is totally passable. Let's do this. Let's do Beyond the Beyond PlayStation VR. All right, we gotta go.
I just kept thinking like that Psychonauts level that happens in the it's basically like a board game, right? Yeah. Anyways.
So that does it for another episode of Why We Love PlayStation VR. As always, we want to know what you thought of No Heroes Allowed VR. Man, we got it
right. Yay!
It was so strange, man. Like I didn't think I was going to screw it up at all, and then once you did, I kept doing it. Also, what other games do you want us to play? The list is very long
and getting longer.
It's getting longer, and like people have been giving us great recommendations. There are even games that we thought we did and we haven't done. So, so man, the list is ridiculously long. But we still want to hear from you because the list gets shorter by the week and then longer every other week.
And this April's going to get really long.
It's going to get really long.
Crazy.
It's craziness.
Yeah.
For another episode of Why We Love PlayStation VR, I'm Brian Paul.
I'm Desra.
And we'll see you next week.